Welcome to the Tukatalks show, where Tukatech founder Ram Sareen talks to fellow fashion industry experts about the trending topics of today, the history of the apparel business, and the paradigm shifts that will transform the industry for the future.
Greetings from Tukatalks. It's one of the luckiest day for me to have a legend in the garment industry, in the technology world, visiting us and totally unprepared to be put in the chair of Tukatalks. Walter Wilhelm, if anybody who has been in the garment industry, even for 5 years, you would know that name. I've known Walter for many decades, so I don't want to go into the number of years. But let me tell you the first two systems. One was called a Camsco, and the other one came from Hughes Aircraft. And Walter comes from Hughes Aircraft, which was then bought out by Gerber. I think it was in the 70s, early 70s. When I bring a technology guru, when I bring a legend in the industry, I want him to share what not to do. Because you, young folks, can't live long enough to make all your mistakes yourself. So when the old people are saying something, they're saying so that you can get away from experimenting and losing a lot of money. Technology is here to stay. And if you need to grow, you need to use technology. Question is, what technology? Where? Walter has done consulting for the last so many decades. There isn't a retailer in America, there isn't a brand in America who doesn't know what Walter has done. Walter has been a guiding light to many businesses, and I don't want to mention the names, but Walter Wilhelm, tell it yourself.
Thank you, Ram. You're very kind. I think probably too kind as far as my background and my experience. But I have been in the industry. I first came into the industry. I was working for Hughes Aircraft Company, and they worked with Burlington and Genesco to develop a cutter at that time. It was a laser cutter, and they put me in charge of that project. And so this was in 1970. So I've worked in the industry for a very long time. I think I first met you around 1976 or something when Gerber acquired the
Camsco.
Hughes
Oh,
product.
the Gerber. Yeah. The AM1.
Yep,
AM1,
the AM1, the CAD system. A lot of changes in that period of time. The early technology was not very easy to use. The CAD technology, the typical training time was 6 to 12 months to become really proficient on it. You had to develop a different driver for every device you wanted to connect to. So if you wanted to run a printer, you had to develop a new driver. And that was sometimes weeks or months in the development of the driver. So there's a lot of changes. Technology today is a lot more simple to use. It should be. It should take you a lot less time to integrate and implement, but it's not always the case. There are some very difficult systems still out there. But in general, there's quite a change. And today you can, when I first came into the industry, the only technology that was really available was an electronic typewriter.
Correct.
And the computer systems filled up more than this room. They're all environmentally controlled and everything. And you didn't see any computers in the manufacturing side of the business. They didn't exist.
I think somebody mentioned one of our Tuka centers out of New York. They were the guys who bought Camsco.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting story. They paid $250,000
Yes.
for one digitizer, one plotter, and one
Yes.
workstation.
The average price at that time for a CAD station with a plotter, the basic mini computer, they were all running on mini computers and a graphics, was $225,000.
Correct. Now, the house in New York at that time was average $170,000. So it is more than a house that you're buying. And they realized that to provide services for, and the system did not do pattern making. It was just digitizing paper patterns, grading by computers, and the real money saved was from markers, from fabric consumption. And they were going to provide services. They realized that they have put in a lot of money and they don't have a solution. In order to really have a solution as a service provider, they needed to upgrade from 3,000 to 5,000, the system called MM3000 to MM5000, and they had to buy more stations. So now they're going to spend another $450,000, a total of $700,000, and that was the biggest gamble. But they were the first one in the entire world as a pattern grading and marker making service. And they're not in business anymore. But we've come a long way from technologies where now you look at, and I'm going back to your training time. The systems were so slow, those tapes. You had to send a file for plotting. You could go for coffee break and come back while it's still processing the plot data.
Yes.
That's how slow it was. Today, we have young people. They don't need training. They figure things out. Why graphic systems out there, Photoshops? You go marketplace, you see some people selling from your pictures. I can put it on the mug and give it to you. Photoshop. These 20-year-old kids. They didn't go to university. That's what technology is all about. Question now is, are we going to live with what we used to have and what the challenges were, or just turn the page and say, we're in the next century. What do we do? How do we use technology?
Well, I think the tricky part is in the execution today. The development has gone leaped ahead so far, but the execution of how you put it in and make it work and what kind of planning went into the implementation of the technology is really a big difference from vendor to vendor. And so that's really a critical part of the equation today is the execution.
You and I have had several conversations about challenges with retailers, with brands, with older generations still running those and still sitting on the sidelines. Should I use technology or should I not use technology? Will that take my job away? COVID forced a lot of technologies.
Big changes.
Yeah. What you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think that COVID forced the people to look at what they can get locally. There's a lot of ships sitting out in the harbor here in Long Beach. They can't even bring their goods in from Asia right now. And so people, a lot of the retailers and the brands are looking at that. Is there a way that I can get my product made locally rather than globally?
Yeah, they need to put goods in the stores.
Exactly.
Or
and
the e-commerce.
And the only way they can do that locally anymore is using technology. You no longer have a choice. And so it's COVID has really accelerated the implementation of new technologies. And people have learned to use it sitting at home. They've learned to use Zoom, to have conference calls, and to use the technology sitting in their home as a result of COVID.
One of the meetings I had with an agency that employed fit models. During COVID, a lot of fit models sat at home.
Yeah.
There were no garments coming in, there were no fittings going on. If the garments came in as the things opened up, the garments were sent to their homes. They were doing video fittings. What was so different than doing the 3D fitting? Now, we've been talking about 3D fitting for the last 20 plus years.
20 years.
Right? There are brands who went for it and they are doing phenomenal. And then there are retailers with a private label, the brands with old force, who's afraid of introducing any other solution that involves their own elimination. They put a stop to it.
You're absolutely right. There were a lot of the larger brands and the larger retailers that had fit models that they would ship those fit models around the world. And they were able to they would go to the factories and they would do their fittings in Asia or wherever Africa, wherever it happened to be. And as the companies chased the low cost of manufacturing around the world, and that was completely unnecessary if they would have used 3D technology when it first came available. But it's a lot easier today than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Well, there were products. I remember about 15 years ago, we got into making body forms.
Yes.
We were the only company who made the exact replica of the human being with the skin of the dummy was exactly the skin of a person. So the garment draped as though it is on a person's body, not cloth to cloth. And the ply of the movement of the body was just like the human body. So if you're doing jeans, you could suck your tummy in and then put the jeans on, which you couldn't do it. I remember making body forms. I had a PhD chemist. We were making for bra forms because they were the most difficult one. Victoria's Secret, Marks and Spencer used to fly their fit models all the time. Lane Bryant, which was the large sizes, was bigger problems. So we actually made replicas, but the breasts felt like the exact breast, replicated. So when you put the bra on, it lifted or not lifted depending on how the bra was made. It compressed or not compressed.
If you were doing that 20 years ago, you were way ahead of the curve.
We were. And we made for Victoria's Secret, we made for Marks and Spencer, Sri Lanka, in China, a lot of companies, they bought. Things were very expensive. Yes. It was a long process. But we realized one thing. We're not gaining anything. We're like doing the same process. We're in the same box. We just hurry up and wait. What? So we're still making a pattern. We don't know the integrity of the pattern till we cut and sew a garment. Then we putting on a hard dummy to kind of see if all the pattern pieces are right. Then we put it on a person. Then do the fit comments and adjustments. And then the garment doesn't go into the line.
Yeah, it was a very expensive mistake.
Yes. So we saw that we were on the wrong path. By having these dummies meant I must make a garment to be able to see on a dummy. What if I just make the garment digitally, see it on a digital dummy, which is the exact replica of the fit model's body? So we took all those body scans. See, a lot of people don't understand. Fashion is fit. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't sell.
Right.
Stop arguing that it looks so good. You can entice a customer. You can have them take it from the shelf, from the rack, from the screen to a cart or to a fitting room. The real proof is, did the credit card come out? Or did they keep the garment or send it back? If they sent it back, it didn't fit. If it went back on the rack, it didn't fit. Something was wrong. How do we eliminate that? Fit, it was extremely important. Some government companies, and again, this is very disheartening to me. Even the largest of the largest of the largest would ask a dumbest possible question: who else is doing it? Whenever you showed them a solution, why was that? It was really disheartening for me. Nobody wanted to be an entrepreneur. They all wanted to have a huge big meeting and share the blame. But if it worked, whoever was the head of the department got that benefit. How did that change?
Well, I think the technology caught up with the need. In the early days, if you go back 40 years ago, Hughes Aircraft Company worked with a designer out of, it was part of Hart Schaffner, and they were partners with them in trying to make a 3D model that you could use on a computer. And it was scientifically successful. The project did work, but the technology was so expensive and so difficult to use, and no one was going to the customers weren't going to stick their neck out to use something like that. So it was not successful from a commercial standpoint. And but today the technology is available. You can, as you mentioned earlier, you can take a relatively inexperienced person out of school. They already know how to run computers probably a lot better than I do, and they can take that technology, and it is available for them. It used to be extremely expensive to send any 3D graphic information around the world.
Yes.
Incredibly expensive. The bandwidth required and everything. Today you can send it to your friend in Europe or Africa or wherever, India, wherever it happens to be, and they'll have it within minutes. And it's a completely different world today. The technology caught up with the need. So.
Do you remember who was the first company who showed their first proof of concept of 3D fitting and sampling?
I think the first one that did that, really that did it commercially, was probably Tukatalks.
No. We were so late to the party. We had so much learning. I'm going to share with you. And this is where my father used to say aspirin is a great medicine, but only effective when you have a headache.
Yeah.
Before and after, it has no effect. 1985 or 86, I don't remember the exact year, but the Japanese company called Asahi.
I know them very well. I've been to
Asahi had a mini computer, showed it at a bobbin show, and all they had was 3D sample making, but no pattern making, no grading, no marker making. Their objective was exactly what it should have been. Who cares? Patterns are made. You can use the same templates again and again once you get it right. We call them block patterns. Well, I'm going to create black block pattern into 3D and then create my look by having different images of prints and colorways and fabrics and so on. And they even had the motion.
Shima Seiki was experimenting with that about that same
Correct.
time.
Yeah, well, they were Japanese. I think Japanese, Mr. Seiki. I think he's been now 40 plus years in this business, and I'm a big fan of him.
Me too.
Because I think he's so ahead, and he's marching to his own tune. Very much like us. We don't care what people think. We feel that this is the way the future should be. So what? I don't have a partner. I don't have a shareholder. What are you going to do? I don't have a loan from banks either. Nobody's going to breathe down my neck and say, you've got to do this. No. It's my money, my rules. My rules are put the solutions, and the smart ones may take it.
Shima Seiki came into the market with the flat knitting technology.
Yep.
That prior to that, Stoll and Universal dominated that market. They had 90% of the world market between them. Within 5 years, Shima Seiki had 65% of the market, of the global market. But they were so clever, and they were an interesting company. I went over there and met them early in the game. Their headquarters is in Wakayama.
Yep.
And they, at the end of our meeting, it was on a Friday, they asked me, they said, Mr. Wilhelm is always very formal. Mr. Wilhelm, what are you doing for the weekend? I said, I've got a meeting in Osaka on Monday, so I'm going to go back to Osaka and stay in a hotel there. They said, we've got a suggestion. We have an inn down in Shirahama, which is the Baden-Baden of southern Japan. And we suggest you go down and stay in our inn for the weekend and be our guest. And so I said, great, it sounds wonderful. And I went down there and I slept on a tatami mat. I ate in there. No one spoke a word of English. So, but we got by. It was one of the most interesting experiences of my career. And it shows the kind of hospitality that they had. And I asked them why they did that. And they said they wanted to encourage people to really know their culture as well as their technology.
Yeah.
Quite an interesting thing. You've followed that throughout your career.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. I'm very proud to be Indian. My children, my grandchildren, they all understand.
Yes.
Culture is extremely important.
Yes. I think
things change very quickly, but we can't remove the history. History is there to teach us what not to do.
Yes.
Okay. Going back to Shima Seiki, Santoni in Italy, and if you look around their business models, their idea is to have no more samples, no bad inventory. Everything should be fitting, made on demand for the customer. And I love their business model where they can have those machines sitting in dry cleaner shops, and you can just send your measurements and send the garment out.
There's some companies today, as a result of COVID, that are looking at made-on-demand production. And they're talking about setting up these smaller units in different major areas of the country. And 5 years from now, you're going to see quite a difference, because most of the manufacturing in the United States left, and it chased the low dollar or the low cost of manufacturing around the globe. But these little manufacturing cells that are near where the client is or near where the brand is, you're going to see those proliferate in the next 5-10 years in the United States.
100%.
So
we were the first one to come up with a demand manufacturing. We showed the proof of concept at Cal Poly Pomona, where we body scanned a person in 3D. We fitted the garment. We created a look. We're putting the logos and so on. Send that data to printing on demand, then cutting and sewing on demand in front of 200 people. Everything documented by video. And within 3 hours, the girls were wearing those garments.
Unbelievable.
That was 2012.
Mm-hmm.
One of our customers, just think, your biggest loss or possibility of loss is unsold garments.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely.
We used to say you've got to be almost God to be able to predict what size, color, and style you should have in inventory. So now think of it from a different business model altogether. A company making bicycle apparel. Now, what is it? It's a bike top and bike shorts, right? Bicycle apparel is not style changes. But look at the bikers on the weekend. There are always 15, 20 of them. What is the difference? Their body shapes and measurements are different. So as a manufacturer, I'm looking at different sizes. Yeah, men, women, so on. Then the graphics and colorways on each one is different. They all look like peacocks. Okay. Can you imagine for me to be able to predict which size, which colorway should I keep in inventory? So this demand manufacturing, when they saw this, right away they came to us. They said, we'll pay you to take it further and develop it. And we agreed to co-develop the entire system and not charge them a penny so that we could sell. But my caveat was that we couldn't show it to anybody for 2 years, which is exactly what we did. Now, what is the technology? The technology is very simple. Because I have digital inventory, it's patterns. Why do I have to sell 3 sizes or 4 sizes or 5? I can sell 7 sizes so I can reach out to more people. It's digital. Then within each, why do I have to have 3 colorways? I have 700 colorways. It's only digital file. So if you go to their website, everything is a 3D garment. Today, technology like Google Analytics will tell you which image is not even being looked at, or which image is, that's where the data plays, what we call data mining, to create new decisions.
Yeah. Some of the Chinese companies are using that tremendously already.
Yeah. So now the question was, somebody buys something, pays the credit card by credit card, ERP kicks in a manufacturing order totally automatically. It pulls out that size of pattern, that related graphics, put it all together, makes a tight marker with Adobe Illustrator plugin. The first one to develop that plugin, and makes a tight marker. And that marker data goes to a print file. This is the first time a human being gets involved. So we print it, we cut it single garment, we sew it, and we ship it. If you go to their website, you will see every garment that says, this garment is made on demand, allow 5 to 7 days.
I love it.
Now, you mentioned about demand manufacturing and manufacturing on source. 19 months of COVID lockdowns. We have never seen that much activity in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of companies are opening up, starting small factories. But the interesting part is a lot of them have no idea of fashion industry. This amazes me. I'm 72 in another month and a half or so. When you see a 27-year-old person who has zero understanding of fashion industry, but knows, what I want a custom-made denim jeans. Did somebody not tell him this is the worst possible industry when it comes to product development and waste? When it comes to fabrics and fit, is it okay, aspiration?
There's a new custom jean manufacturing company that's opening here in Los Angeles in October. And it's run by one of the most knowledgeable denim people in the industry. And so you're going to see that kind of thing opening up in different markets.
We already have this 2 years ago, before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Companies called Lasso, Lasso, Lasso Apparel. We started doing a little segment for Knowledge Base made in LA. A lot of demand manufacturing companies. We have set up about 75 factories in the last 19 months.
Wow.
And about 150 other factories all over the globe. Because that's, people understand, my risk is my inventory of raw material, not finished products. I can turn them as I sell. My e-commerce business allows me to get financed by my buyer.
Yeah.
They pay me first. And then I cut and sew and ship. Then I can pay these people.
It's a wonderful model.
I can sell for less money than you were selling in the store. And I can make 10 times more money than you were making with all the losses.
Yeah.
It's a dumb business model that anybody can understand. So this company, Lasso, is two 24-year-old kids who started this. Both of them graduated, didn't like their fit, the garments, and they decided to explore. Bottom line, in Los Angeles, I love their slogan. We don't make SML, we make size U. That are you.
I love it.
Hey, it's a beautiful. So go to Lasso. You'll see this. There are so many small businesses. Now, in 2018, we do consulting. So I remember having a consulting project with one of the retailers, and the CEO, while we are walking, he says, "Well, Mr. Sareen, we're praying that the last quarter," you heard that line, the last
Santa Claus comes in the fourth quarter.
Right, is okay. So I took him on the side. I said, praying is done in two places, in churches or in hospitals, where really you are dying. You don't do praying in the boardrooms. You make it happen. Most of the people really believed that God is there who's going to take care of them. And they just try to follow. If they are doing it, we must be doing it right. And the blind kept leading the blind. And what happened? We're all dying. Now, you mentioned something very interesting about the rise of demand manufacturing. Yes, we're working with several investment groups. And I'm telling you, there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of venture capital money is going in this kind of business model. And major brands will be selling on their websites to the customer whatever fits them, their measurements. And those demand manufacturing factories will make and ship to consumer within 48 hours. Now, this business model is not a dream. It's happening.
You can't do it without the technology, though.
Yes.
You have no choice. Yes. You've got to use the technology and use it effectively in order to do that.
But a lot of people think microfactory means small. It's not small. I got a customer who's making 44,000 garments per day.
Wow.
44,000 garments per day. Each is a single cut. You can scale it as much as you want. And they are making more money with less risk.
Less capital investment,
yes. Yes. Okay. So I don't think anyone should be sleeping comfortably if they are still working with the old business model, because I'm not saying, please, I want to clarify this. This doesn't apply to every business model. I think there'll be 3 segments of the business models. One segment is what we call, there is no date or time or year for those products.
Bulk.
Yeah. They are not fashion or season-oriented garments. They sell 12 months a year. It's like diapers. You're going to wear them all the time, right? Question is, how much inventory you should keep. Depending on the supply chain, you will go to the cheapest possible country.
Yes.
So that country, whoever is going to be, is going to make their factory as best as possible so that they can compete.
So what are the other 2?
The other 2, the other extreme of that is what I call recession-proof luxury market. They don't give a shit. They buy impulse. They have unlimited money, and they will continue to buy that. Wear it once, leave it in there. You can't change that. Those brands will continue to go up, not down. Not down, because we have a lot of money being made by a lot of new riches who have to go out and show, I have dra on my purse, I have dra on my clothes. And that thing is not going away. Go to Hong Kong
I'm
and
skeptical about whether that's going to continue and grow. But then the
it's not
third
going
one
to be
then
quantities.
is the made to measure.
It's not going to be. No. It's not going to be quantities for those luxury items.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the price, the dollar value in the total numbers.
Okay.
Like 5% is what we slate that is going to be dollar value going into the luxury market. They may reduce, but they may increase the price. They may reduce the number of units. The third one is fashion garments, which are worn because the garment fits me well. But I am going to keep it for a while. I am not going to buy the throwaway garment or the garment that I buy, I take a picture, send it on the Instagram, and then return the garment. That shit is going to go away. The new generation has, who made my garment? What is in there? Is it sustainable technology? Is it sustainable fabrics? Is it what kind? So whoever takes the reign over there, takes the advantage and markets it well, they will do it. And they'll be priced lower than what MSRP bullshit is, because nobody's buying at MSRP.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever go to Amazon or Walmart? Of course, the answer is yes.
Of course.
Do you ever worry about if I can wait for maybe 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 months to see if the price goes down?
No.
They've already established they're the lowest. You don't even question that. It's the people who created two things wrong. One was price is just a suggestion, but I'm going to wait for something to come down. And two, size was not really a suggestion because I don't trust it. I'm size 2 of one and size 12 of another.
Exactly. Sit one back.
And so they did the worst thing to themselves by not standardizing, because now the customer doesn't know which brands, what size fits them. Yeah. And that's e-commerce.
There's
biggest
one
nightmare.
very large retailer that built a multi-billion-dollar business based on the fact that they were going to mark down. Everyone knew that when they brought it out, they sold a certain percentage at full price, but they knew that 6 weeks later it was going to be marked down once, and then 2 weeks after that it's going to be marked down again. And so certain customers just waited for the third or fourth markdown. So, but you're absolutely right. I think that's going to change with if you've got technology that makes it fit right and look right, and you get your choice of the model and the color and everything. That's going to happen, or is happening.
I want to ask you your opinion. I have, I'm married to a lawyer.
Right? Yes, yeah, I knew that.
So my wife taught me one thing: never ask a question you don't know the answer.
Okay.
So here I am going to ask you the question, but maybe I didn't know that answer. Okay. All the buying that is done in every possible style, most of it is done, whatever is the sample size with the maximum quantity, the ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is let's say 5 sizes, is 1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
Right.
Why is that?
It's just historical. They didn't have any choice. The manufacturers went to the market with their sample size, and when they finished showing their collection and the buyer came in, they kind of told the buyer what sizes were the ones they were anticipating. So the buyer just bought that range, and the buyer didn't have any choice but that. So there was no science behind it.
We just discussed data, the value of data, the data mining. Take the best possible stores who do not discount, or the one who discount heavily, and you will find that their discount racks have products are either the smallest possible size or the largest possible size. Yeah. Well, that should tell a story to the retailer
Yes.
that our specs are wrong. For the longest possible time that I've been in this business, I remember we had only 3 sizes: small, medium, large. We didn't have 2, 4, 6,
Yes.
8, or we
Yeah.
didn't have 1, 3, 5, 7.
Yes.
We had small, medium, large. Okay, we were not making. I grew up in the garment factories.
Mm-hmm.
The business who did the fittings and so on, they did it on a fit model of one size. And they really fitted that garment to the eighth of an inch to make sure the garment.
Right.
Now, that person created, whoever is in that body size, shape range will buy mine because it'll fit perfectly. One size up and one size down is a sweet zone. Somebody will buy it. Maybe it is half an inch or 1 inch longer, shorter, wider, tighter, but I will go maybe on this side or this side. So really my sweet zone was the sample size and one size up and down. This, because of my grade rules, and this, my grade rules, it was somebody else's fit models, was somebody else's model. But we keep doing that nonsense. Why didn't we learn? Why don't we learn? I'll ask one more question. And I have the answer for that one because we did it. We did it with a lot of people. We have fit models. We have different body shapes. We have different products. A lot of people are going into, we need to get digital fitting room. I'm sure you must have seen, this has been out there for 15 years. Cisco showed a proof of concept, a girl standing in front of a mirror and going like this in the air. And there's a new garment coming up showing in the mirror what she's going to look like.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
Cisco, that video went viral and so
Yeah.
on. Well, whoever made that was good idea, except people don't understand what came first, the chicken or the egg. If you have already made this small, medium, large, extra large, extra large, extra small, or whatever the size is, it's already in the inventory.
Huh.
And now you bring a person who says, I want to try on. And they are saying, oh, you can have phone to scan your body. That's all bullshit, man. If that was the case, everybody would fit into every garment because those measurements are so off and the shapes are so off. But the technology allows you to see how that garment is going to look on your body. No different than you going like this with a hanger in front of the mirror, right?
Yes.
But that size is not there. So now approximate size is going to be shipped. Then comes the test. Will she keep it? If it didn't fit the way it showed on the screen, that technology is garbage. And that thing has to be addressed. Why fit is important.
Yeah. That's I think what you're getting at is why that was not successful in a retail environment. They just didn't have the garments that fit properly. And so they shipped a guesstimate of what the client would need. And then they shipped it back, and that's an expensive process. So,
we always talk about, for the life of me, I can't understand. I've never looked at any other guidance except for automotive business. All my life, I've followed what automotive business does.
mm-hmm.
And technology-wise, you can imagine what's going on there. But who was direct to consumer in the automotive business? Tesla.
Tesla, yeah.
They decided they don't want anything in between the supply chain, dealers, workshops, nothing.
You're clever.
You've got to have the chutzpah.
Mm.
And now all these big guys
Are
who
trying
were
to
the big
follow
ones
it.
and say, hey, who else is doing that? When I go to Walmart and I offer them solution that I've done this for Target and I've done this for Chico's, and I've done this for Colts and so on, and they want to know who else is doing it. That was the end of my working with brands and retailers, because they're not the people who are going to make the change. Change has to come from somebody who really is not scared of their jobs, who's out there trying to make a difference.
Well, I think there are some brands and retailers. It's more of a challenge finding out who you need to go to, but there are some brands and retailers that are out there with an open mind and willing to do these kinds of things.
I'm always talking about generalities.
Yes.
I'm not, exceptions are there. Of course, we salute them. I very strongly believe change is constant, growth is optional. That's my mantra, right?
I love that.
Change is constant. It's happening all around you, okay? But if you look around, I don't know if you ever studied Tesla. Few things. Tesla has their own supply chain in one place.
Yeah.
From just the raw material, they do everything. Stamping, making, even batteries and everything is all done in one place. Not dependent on button coming from Wuhan and zipper coming from where, whatever. You're not going to shut me down, right? I'm going to shut me down if I have to. But you're not going to shut me down. That's one. Second, I don't have to depend on somebody selling, somebody taking care of my service and so on. I'll take care of everything. I'm selling, talking to the consumer. What am I getting? I'm getting the data. What time he wakes up, what time he starts a car, she or he. How far do they go? How long do they go? Can I have? Why is it? Because I'm not God. I got to work on data. In garment industry, we are always putting a patch, trying to see if we can fix this here. What do we have to do? For digital process, we are going to develop. This is not my prediction. This is happening already. We are going to develop digitally. That means I'm going to make digital patterns. I'm going to sew digitally. I'm going to see digitally. And I'm going to show digitally. We've been doing it for 9 years already.
Yeah. But it's going to explode.
Yes. Now I have digital inventory, right? So if I have digital inventory and I could get a digital model who can then try on the garment and see difference between 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. And you want to be surprised? I did that in 2012 for Nordstrom with Connect software. Were we ahead of the game? Yes, we were. But now it's relevant because I want to make what everybody wants, what fits everybody. So I have zero waste. In 2018, in front of a lot of people, I spoke and I mentioned that by 5 years, 2023, we'll be making 40% less garments. I was booed. Why? Because I was in the exporting country. They believed in getting larger orders. But if you look at the data showed we only have 7 billion people on this planet. We were making 120 billion garments.
Yeah.
No, 75 billion garments finally made it to the store. Other 50 billion just went straight to the landfills.
Right.
How long do you think this was going to go on?
That's really interesting statistics. That's why I came to visit you today. I love your philosophy. So,
quite interesting. I'm just having fun.
I know that.
I'm having fun. This company has started to have some fun. Okay. Reason? Hey, what else are you going to do? My father used to say, it's not the money, it's not the properties that you're going to leave, it's the reputation.
Yeah.
Your reputation. People don't remember, but they remember, were you a good guy or a bad guy? I just want to be in the good books. Thank you, Walter. Thank you for being here.
I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed being around you. I learned something every time.
What is your parting suggestion for the industry?
Well, I think that industry around the world, not just in the United States, is as a result of COVID primarily, we're having to learn to be more nimble and to think in smaller quantities and fewer units and more customized than it's ever been. And that's what's driving the industry, both at the retail level and the manufacturing level. When clients come to me today and they want my guidance and whatever, I'm having to deal with a lot smaller companies, a lot of startups, and they all are looking for, hey, what do we need to do differently than we were doing 20 years ago, and being nimble, being flexible, those are really important. So, is that any help?
Yeah, actually, this is exactly what I feel is the demand manufacturing,
Yes.
or microfactories, or knowing nothing and then acting on market needs,
Yes.
whatever the market needs are. It's funny that you mentioned that. My first job was in Canada, working for a children's wear outerwear company, Gemini Fashion. And I recall there was a retail company called CNA.
Yeah, I knew them very well.
Yeah. And CNA was calling Gary Steinman, who was the president of the company, and was asking, do you make this? Do you make that? I couldn't hear what they were asking. And he was going, yep. Oh, give us 9 months. We can make babies too. I thought that was a phenomenal response. I am nimble. I can make what you want. I'm in a cut and sew business.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah. We've got to start thinking and asking why we are doing what we are doing.
Rather than selling what has been made, you're making what is selling. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this discussion presented by Tukatalks. If you found something in this conversation insightful, we would love for you to click the share button and send this episode to a friend.